What's up, everybody? I hope you're all having an awesome Thursday. Thank you for joining us for Taking It Back. I got Frank and Zach hanging out with me today. What's up, guys?
Hey guys.
Hey guys, how you doing?
I'm good. Just feeling jealous now. Frank talking about playoff baseball with his team, and my team was mathematically eliminated last March. So
Listen, this is something that goes on in the background of every year. I just love the game of baseball. It's a romantic thing for me. I love it. And when it comes to New York, October, if there's playoff baseball going on for those couple of weeks, it adds a layer of anxiety that gosh, I love when it's over. I hate when it's over. Like, there's so many things going on right now. We're 19 days away from a gigantic election. There's only so much you can do about that except cast your one vote.
mhm.
To say that this does not affect me, to know the Yankees, even though they're up 2-0 that they play at 5 o'clock, just everybody know when you see me tonight at 7 o'clock, the Yankees will probably be around the sixth inning or so. Thank God I don't have a guest on tonight because I'll be sitting. It's gonna be bad. I'm gonna have notifications over here. I'm gonna be talking about shit over here. God, I'm itchy like a dog. I don't know. But you know what I was going to talk about tonight? A little bit. I'm sure you guys already did it with your shows, and Zach goes live at 5. But the what do you think about the Brett Baer thing? The Kamala interview. I mean, obviously, all of the literal crackhead shills on Twitter thinks that she shined like a diamond. It doesn't matter. She can double over and throw up onto the interviewer's lap, and they'll say it was really courageous what she did, how she hurled. It was projectile vomit. I never seen somebody throw vomit 3 or 4 feet like that. It was like a fire hose. Incredibly strong stomach she does.
Those are the kind of people who would shellac a piece of dog shit and call it art, or look at Damien Hirst's crucifix in a vat of piss and say that was brilliant. I don't know how anyone could see that interaction with Kamala Harris and Brett Baer and come away with anything other than the fact that Kamala Harris's campaign is done. I mean, she does not have the temperament to be president. She cannot back up any policies that were implemented during the Biden years. She vacillated from saying that Donald Trump had to take ownership of what happened during his administration, which he does on a daily basis. And I mean, he's very vocal about the wins, and he even admits the losses. But Kamala Harris cannot take responsibility for anything.
I know.
She's completely divorced from reality. And I loved it personally. It was great to see Brett Baer do actual journalism. I mean, I did not expect that. I still don't care for the guy. But I mean, the really soft vocal intonations he used when he was sliding that stiletto between her ribs was brilliant. I really enjoyed it.
Dude, you know what's funny is that one of the things you see out of people are these just and it wasn't just relegated to the Brett Baer interview, but it was over the last month or so where you'll have a Cheney or all the Cheneys, a Romney, this one and that one, the people that we hate, the people that Republicans more and more realize are the biggest problem with the world. They are company men. That party is nothing. The party is they say, oh, country over party. Well, I mean, they don't give a shit about the country, and their parties are even very loosely veiled, disguises for what is a meat eating machine.
Mm-hmm.
And for her to sit back and say, no, and then she starts going through all the people that they've collected, all the Trump staffers and all of the military men, all the weasels that we have come to hate, that we have so easily identified as some of the biggest problems that we never voted for. They're just part of this eternal bureaucracy. The fact that they continue, I saw one of the gay Krasenstein twins said something like, "I'm so happy that she said this out loud," and I said, "Oh God, let me press play to see what exactly he thought was illuminating." And it was her rattling off all of the deep state snakes that they have collected endorsements from. I'm like, how is you think this is a win? That we have these people?
These are the people that just a couple of years ago the Democrats were decrying as the worst people on the face of the earth, right? I mean, like the embodiment of the neocon warhawk machine when they pretended to stand in opposition to that. But now, because they've tossed their hat in the ring with Kamala Harris, suddenly these people are modern day Joan of Arcs.
Yep.
It cracks me up. And I think it really is illuminating the uniparty scam to a lot of people that might not be able to see it before. I mean, you're always gonna have your crazy TDS people who, no matter what, like they would literally vote for a potato if it ran against Donald Trump, and the potato would have the best policy and interviews on the planet because he's not Donald Trump. But I think there's a lot of people that like a lot of swing voters that are looking at this, and they're really starting to see who's an outsider, who's part of the machine. It's really obvious. And
Oh yeah.
as far as the interview goes, I don't even think Brett Baer like was that hard on her. I would like he was just asking legitimate questions,
Yeah.
not just allowing her to filibuster over him the way she does with everybody else. Like it started off right at the beginning where he asked her how many illegal immigrants have come across the border under your administration, and she proceeds to say, "All right, let's get to the point.
Well,
I'm
she was
glad
like,
you asked
this
this
is such an
because people
important
want to have
issue.
this conversation, and I want to have this conversation. So let's get to the point, Brett. Let's have this conversation. Let's talk about the border because it's like she just keeps going in circles.
Yeah.
He's like, no, the number. I asked you for a number. She's like, yeah, but seriously, let's just get to the point. And it's like, yeah, I'd love that if you would get to the point. And that was the whole interview.
Yeah.
Very specific question. And then her just like talking about how it's important to talk about it for as long as she could until Brett finally was like, no, like that's not an answer. Like there's no tangible substance to what you're saying whatsoever.
Yeah.
Running out the clock. That's all she did, and that's all she ever does. She has zero substance to anything. And Brett Baer, it wasn't a revelation. It was simply the bare minimum that's required for journalism. I mean, asking real questions about real life situations and policy that the American people care about, that everybody else is talking about. Everybody else sees it on a regular basis. And the people who don't see it are the people who I'm not even convinced that those people don't see it. But I am certainly convinced that they know they can't discuss it. They can't talk about it because it's going to cast a pall over Kamala Harris and anything that she's had anything to do with. And that's why she can't discuss it. She can't directly address any of these things because they are so clearly destroying America.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I know. I
think one of my favorite moments from the whole interview was he said he brought up poll numbers and he said it was like 70% of Americans think the country is on the wrong track. That track has three and a half years of runway from your administration. So tell people like how you're turning the page or something like that. She goes, well, Donald Trump's been running for 10 years or something like that.
She's not Joe Biden, and Donald Trump has been running for office. What does that have to do with anything?
And he was like, yeah, but you've been, there for the last 3 years. And she was like, come on, Brett, you know what I'm talking about. He goes, no, honestly.
No, I don't.
No, what are you talking about? That and again, this is good stuff. And this is if you're an objective person, that's the whole thing. Psychologically, there's no way on earth that you could be right about everything. And this is what the left pretends to be, right about everything. Now they can say the same thing about people who support Donald Trump or at any level, like just the MAGA, super fan, or the person who just sees it as a lesser of two evils, or they have other nuanced reasons why they just have to throw a vote that way, or they're not voting at whatever the hell it is. For the last 10 years, most of us were just really hungry for an opportunity to actually have some sanity restored so that we can actually get to critiquing Donald Trump. You know, we would actually like to spend more time on what could be better about his platform and his message and the way that it's put out there, and how real problems could be addressed in a constitutional restorative way. I mean, we have, I mean, at least me, I never come from a standpoint of knowing everything or believing that the side that I have thrown in with is right on everything, but they seem to just be, it doesn't matter what it is. They are right. They were right. And everything is a validation of what they've ever said. And it makes no sense. It's such a silly position, Like, for example, for her to sit there, like you guys just said, and for him to talk about turning the page. What are you turning the page from? It's been you guys for nearly 4 years. You're the vice president. You cannot detach yourself from the policy that's being set forth by the White House. You're the vice president. You're on the same ticket as the current president. And to be honest, you were on his reelection campaign until they cooed him out of the place. So it's a very valid question. What's being changed? Oh, blah, 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 blah. And then back to, yeah, but Donald Trump has been politically relevant for 10 years. What does that mean? Yeah, you get to sidestep any kind of specifics on a question like that because Donald Trump has been politically relevant in the public square for the better part of a decade. It's so crazy. But people, the fact that people find that to be a legitimate answer is scary.
I don't think people do. Those are answers written for like her interview on like Stephen Colbert, where they're going to put on a sign that says "laugh" and cheer after she delivers these lines. Like, I'm not Joe Biden, laugh, and I'm not Donald Trump, cheer. You know, like it's also scripted. This is the first time where it wasn't, and she's still delivering lines as if it's an audience being instructed, you know, or like a rally speech. That I don't know. It's obscene, but that's why she fell so flat on her face. Is she does not know how to have a real conversation. Go ahead, Zach.
No, they've been protected for so long, and they have such an overwhelming disdain for the American people. They truly believe that they know better than us, that what we want doesn't matter, that their ultimate agenda is the only thing that matters, and that we're stupid enough that they're going to be able to continue to pull the wool over our eyes as they just, tear America down before our faces. And they clearly do not believe what they say. I mean, like, the platitudes and the empty positions are simply placeholders, okay? And they throw them out there, and they just continue to move forward because I think that they've just ultimately been used to being handed the win every single time because the game has been completely rigged. 2016 was an outlier. 2020, they knew that they were going to steal the election. 2024, I can only hope that enough has changed and that enough safeguards have been put in place to stop them in a meaningful way, or to prove to the American people when they attempt to steal it that the numbers that they're giving us are simply statistically impossible. And so therefore we can't just accept it as they deliver it to us. But, all of that remains to be seen.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
So I've been listening to Rich Barris a lot lately on his show, and there's a lot to be optimistic about on that front as far as what they could potentially do to steal it. In Pennsylvania, for instance, they did not get the ballot request. Like, they have not sent out even a fraction of the mail-in ballots that they sent out in 2020. Like, you're talking a small percentage, and you actually have Republican voters outpacing Democrats day after day and requested early and mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania. Same with Michigan. And then the early voting I've heard in Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia is like record breaking for registered Republicans. Like the numbers that are the early participation and the number of the mail-in ballots requested. There's not going to be anywhere to run and hide this time unless it's something like what happened in Arizona back in 2022, where I don't know what happened when they were slowly counting those ballots, but I don't believe for a second those were the same ballots people showed up and dropped in whatever bin that was. They clearly switched something out because just the numbers they got from certain counties never made any sense. But it doesn't appear like they're going to be able to even attempt to do things at the same volumes they did in 2020. And on top of that, I think the turnout, the Republican turnout, is an enthusiasm and just the polling from different demographics. I mean, Trump is doing better in almost every key demographic than he was in 2020 versus Joe Biden. When you talk about men, whites, black men, even black women, he's outperforming, and he's more popular from an approval standpoint than he's ever been in the history of his political career. When just asked about, do you like him or do you not like him? So you add all these things up together, and too big to rig actually starts to feel like a possibility. But again, there's always something that we don't see coming. I feel like when we get into these situations, like we feel good, we feel confident, we're optimistic, and then there's always another shoe to drop. And I'm curious as to what it is this time around, if it's something fraud related or if it's some kind of refusal to certify the vote after the election, or lawfare after the election's over to prevent him from being inaugurated or whatnot. I don't know, but as far as the actual mechanics of the election go, I'm starting to feel pretty confident that we're going to get enough ballots in the system to overcome whatever it is they have planned from a vote.
Hey, listen, that'd be okay. Now, Zach, how long do you stream tonight? I know you go live at 5. How long you going for? Like, what's your Thursday night look like?
I mean, I shoot for 2 hours, but I generally go about 2.5 hours.
I would love to have you go, because we could talk a little bit about right now, but this is a big part of my show tonight.
Yeah.
And I would love to have you guys call in just when the lines are open. Nothing scheduled. If you just call, hey, I got a quick thought about this. I'll just, but for the sake of taking it back's recording, I'd like to just bring it up. And that is the polling, the pollsters out there, the battle between the Barrises and the whatchamacallit, the Kyle Silvers and all that stuff. But then there's also the betting markets.
Oh God,
and
yeah.
The betting markets are fucking lopsided.
Yeah, it's like 70-30 basically.
Mm-hmm. Now my question is this, because gamblers, they've got to be on the fringe. They've got to be deeper thinkers. They got to be deeper thinkers. Like if you'd say, Frank, if you came to me and you said, Frank, Cowboys are playing the so-and-sos tonight, who are you putting your money on? I'm putting my money on the other team. The Cowboys are not beating anybody. And even though I love the Cowboys, I will divorce myself from what I want to happen to understanding what's going on. I have to imagine that gamblers, unless they're just completely driven by addiction, and not every gambler is an addict, but I would say that gamblers have got to understand what goes into an election in the 21st century, that it's not just about turnout, that there are other occult issues going on here and other production aspects that cannot be accounted for. And I ask myself, when you see, okay, when you live through 2020, and then you come out in 2024, and we are where we are right now, 19 days away, and you are so lopsided in saying that my money is with Trump, what do the gamblers know? That's what I would like to ask the question of you guys, and then I will ask it later on tonight.
Well, I mean, to what Adel was saying earlier, I mean, Republicans outnumber Democrats by a pretty wide margin for like the first time in like the last 50 years. Okay, like across the country, everywhere. And Trump is leading in, I think, every single swing state. And it's getting to be a wider margin by the day. And then, going back to Arizona, take a look at the demographics, how they're shifting specifically in that state. We've had millions of illegal votes, ghost voters, and bad names taken off the voter rolls all around the country. That's huge. In Phoenix, specifically, my buddy Jeff Zink is running for Congress there, and he's been running like a ground race for like the last 2 election cycles. And in the previous election cycle, I think this is his 3rd time running. You know, this was a +10 or a +20 Democrat district. Okay, Phoenix, Arizona. That's major metropolitan area. And over the course of the last 4 years, he's been walking and talking to the people who live in that district. And he has literally flipped it from a +10 or +20 Democrat district to a +4, +7 Republican.
That's enormous.
It is huge.
Enormous.
Huge. Okay. And he was getting no help from the GOP. He was completely getting shut out. Like they wouldn't even let him talk to Donald Trump. Well, they started doing polling and they realized how many people had flipped allegiance from Democrat to Republican. And it was all because of Jeff. So now he's got people from the official organizations that are reaching out to him and saying, you know, what do we need from, you know, what do you need from us? How can we help you get elected? Because suddenly this is a competitive race. And that's pretty big. That's pretty big. You add that together with all of these little things. Now, the one thing that really, I think, is going to be their major ace in the hole is the Uokava vote. Those overseas ballots, the quote military ballots, that's expanded now. It's like all American citizens that live outside of the United States. But the United States government, you know, with all of the military and all of the military family members that are eligible to vote, I mean, total, you've got like 2.8 million people that the U.S. government accounts for that live outside the borders of the United States. Theoretically, 50% of those might be Democrat. Okay, so you say 1.4. The Democrats have publicly said, the DNC has publicly said that they're trying to whip up 9.7 million votes that they want to vote in this election. There is a major loophole in Uokava, which allows for anyone, anywhere with a computer and access to the website to request a Uokava ballot. You don't have to give your proof of citizenship, okay? All you got to do is have an address in a state and a name, all right? You don't have to submit a driver's license. You don't have to submit a social security number. You just have to have some information. So it's very easy to get fraudulent ballots into the system. And if you'll remember going back to 2020, in places like Michigan, you know, they were like, we open up the Uokava ballots, and first of all, they're not the proper format. You know, they're just a print off or whatever. And they were all for Joe Biden. Nobody else was even voting for anything other than Joe Biden. And they allowed that to stand. So that's being challenged this time around by like the state GOPs and the national GOP. But I think that that's probably where they're going to try to insert these ballots, because the DNC has already attributed however many ballots they need for each of these swing states to pull off a victory and upset over whatever Donald Trump they're expecting him to get. I think that's probably where we're going to see the influx of fraudulent ballots, because those indefinitely confined voters, you know, they don't exist anymore. Wisconsin has a ton of them because they changed the laws, but you know, there's no pandemic. All right. So people are probably going to be voting early if they're not going to be voting in person. Those requests for absentee and mail-in ballots, as you said, just don't exist this time around. Many of those drop boxes don't exist any longer because the Zuckerbucks are not there. You know, places like Michigan, where they've institutionalized that. In Detroit, they already deleted all their Dropbox footage. And so the Michigan RNC is suing the city of Detroit because, you know, that's supposed to be open records. They're supposed to hold on to that. So I think undoubtedly they've probably already jammed a whole bunch of ballots in there. In Georgia, they've already had like 500,000 people vote like in the last couple of days. So who knows what's going on there. And the judges are working really, really diligently to make sure that we don't get a chance to check any of that stuff. I think that a Georgia judge, first of all, like yesterday, he said that we can't count the ballots because it would cause chaos. There isn't enough training. Like, I mean, basic arithmetic, you know, 1 apple, 2 apple, 3 apple. I mean, like, that's like what you learn like kindergarten, first grade. Yeah. So it's ridiculous to think that people can't count ballots by hand. And then another judge just outlawed the collection of Dropbox footage saying that it's unconstitutional to show people dropping their ballots off, which, again, that's total BS.
What do you think? What do you think about Pennsylvania? What was it, that expose? Oh, not an expose. It was just a spot they did on the news where these poll workers in Pennsylvania were just laying out some predictive programming type of excuses as to why they need 4 days after election day to be able to process all the mail-in ballots, because they come in 2 envelopes. The envelopes just hold the whole process back, so they need 4 extra days.
It's so difficult.
I can't. You know what? I have a technology in my mind that might be able to make this go easier. Here it is. It's called a letter opener. I have it right here. I think just to Pennsylvania.
They do that every time, Frank. I mean, they lay that predictive programming and be, don't forget, it's totally normal for the ballots to not be counted on election night, because I guess theoretically people just have gotten stupider in general. You can look at that in IQ tests across the country. But I don't think that's what's really happening here. I mean, they're obviously using that extra time so that they can count the ballots, they can check the voter rolls, they can see how many ballots they're going to need to inject. And, as long as there are actual poll watchers and people that are evenly split, Democrats and Republicans, both being able to check these ballots. Think about Arizona. They just had one Democrat sitting at a computer, not even looking at the signatures, just, check, doing it as fast as possible. If you had a Republican and a Democrat, then, somebody would have been there to check that. Is that going to exist? In Detroit, they hired like 80 Republicans out of like 4,000 poll watchers that they had. So I think undoubtedly they're going to do everything they can there. But they're also not going to have all the Muslim votes for the Democrats this time around. Think about all those uncommitted votes. And the city of Hamtramck, you've got a Democrat Muslim mayor who has endorsed Donald Trump. That's got to hurt.
They're not going to be able to. I don't think anyway. I don't want to say anything definitively because who the hell knows. But they're not. Last time they stopped all of the swing states simultaneously at 11 o'clock at night, kicked everyone out of the building, and then imported. I think it was like almost 500,000 votes into Pennsylvania alone that were 90% for Joe Biden overnight. It was. I don't think that they have enough votes sent out to believably have that kind of vote dump in the middle of the night. And I don't think that they're going to be able to sell it to the people that all the swing states are going to stop at 11:30 o'clock at night the way that they did. Like, that was such a weird night. It was like no one really saw the pause and the reset and like, oh, just go to sleep, it'll be fine in the morning kind of deal. I don't see it being able to play out that same way. Like, I think that's one of those things you could pull it off once, but I think the RNC is far more prepared. They've got different leadership, way better infrastructure behind them. The ground game, while it's still not as good as the Democrats, it actually exists for a change.
Correct.
Turning Point USA has been super active. I think they've hired a couple thousand ballot chasers across the swing states. The RNC has actually been embracing Scott Pressler and the things he's been doing in some of these swing states. Like, it's just like it feels like a different apparatus behind this election than what we've seen in the past. One that actually maybe wants to win instead of just kind of playing the role or putting on a good face while allowing the Democrats to get away with murder. I have no doubt that there's going to be a few House seats stolen, probably a Senate seat or two, that they'll find a way to create the ballots that they need to get one or two extra Democrats in there. But I just looking at everything that's happened over the past 6 months or so, and just watching this build up and seeing the early stages of this election with the early voting, again, the early ballot requests, the voter registration trends, the fact that you're looking at probably an R+1 or 2 electorate in general. You think about how close 2020 was with the cartoonish things that they did to steal that election. they barely push the ball over the goal line in most of these states. Right now, even the most Harris and Democrat friendly polls are showing Donald Trump doing 3, 4, 5, 6 points better than he was then going into this.
Do
And
you guys see a? Because I don't know if if this is what Barris has been hinting at, and I have it in my notes to talk to him. I think I have him on the show for about 25 minutes or so on November 4th, like a last minute primer. So I have a lot of things I want to ask him, but from his tweeting, it almost sounds like he thinks that the popular vote is in play too this time around. What do you?
I agree.
You guys feel the same?
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
If you look at where Democrats typically run up the score, they're losing ground. Like or Donald Trump will probably come within, 7, 8 points in New York, which is wild. He's gonna be competitive in places like New Jersey. I don't think Virginia, New Mexico, states like that are completely out of the question. I'm not counting on that, but I think that a lot of the deep blue states aren't going to give Kamala the margins that most Democrats enjoy, and I really think that after the last 4 years, the deep red areas are very excited to remove this administration of their duties and turn the page to steal their.
That's
So
true.
and again, like the key demographics that the Democrats count on, they've largely alienated.
Yep.
The black communities are furious with the illegal immigration and how they feel like they've essentially been replaced. You look at the trends there. Donald Trump is trending towards 20+% of the black vote. That's insane. You look at Latinos, that's been a trend that's been going the right way for a long time. And then the way they handled the Gaza situation, I think there's a lot of the Arab community in places like Detroit, Michigan, Minnesota that's going to sit out, throw their vote away, not going to show up for Kamala Harris. Plus, men just hate her. Like men in general hate her. I think there's a lot of men who might pollster or act like they're pro Kamala in their social lives or whatever, but they're not going to go and vote for her. She's condescending. She just comes off as a complete and total bitch in every interview. I think most men do not want her to lead them, do not want her to lead the country. She is very, very unlikable. And the polling's one thing, but actually motivating people to get out and vote, I don't see her doing that very well. Like at least Joe Biden had some level of credentials and record being, Barack's vice president and Bennett being around for 40 years and people kind of knew the name and, Scranton Joe, Catholic Joe, whatever. Like I think he appealed to some people, but Kamala Harris, she doesn't carry any of that. She's a complete disaster, and she's just been exposing herself in a big, big way. Like ever since she started that media blitz, it's just completely collapsed.
I know the only way that you can conduct yourself like her, anybody like her, is to be able to have so much. And you think about the infrastructure, the effort that they need to do to be able to push one person. One person. That's why I always say, yeah, the road ahead may not be a very smooth one, but when you think about the effort and the resources that the cabal, the whatever you want to talk about it, the great conglomerate, you think about the effort and the resources that are being expended to be able to lurch forward on some global initiatives. Oh my gosh. It's like if we win, we win. If we lose, we eventually win as well because you can't. This doesn't keep up. This doesn't keep up. Kamala Harris it's already impossible to sell this as legitimate to people who are not already literally handicapped. I'm talking it's not a slur to call somebody retarded in this way. I'm talking about mental handicap. This is a very, very sick group of people. So outside of that, there's no real legitimate place for this to be. They have to find some other way. You're talking about losing ground with all of their more traditionally loyal demographics. I think that this is why the mad dash for the illegal immigrants is probably It's probably there. All the stories we've heard about the processing, the way that they're processing people at the border, pretty much setting them up for voter registration, if not immediately, then within a cycle or two. So it's obvious what the hell's going on over here. If they're going to lose enough ground to actually potentially lose ground in the popular vote, then they need 10 to 20 million people to be able to find a way to extract a few newly legalized voters from. They need bodies at this point.
Yeah. I mean, this is the illegals. It's a population replacement thing, in as much as they need people just to take up room in the United States, as well as casting those ballots. You know, to Adel's point, and this is something that I have felt for a very long time, they have lost their traditional base almost entirely. You see just as many people excited to vote for Donald Trump because they love him, as you see people excited to vote for Donald Trump because they know Kamala Harris would be disastrous for the United States of America. People who have never voted for Donald Trump before. People who were completely deluded about who Donald Trump was or what his policies were, who were previously caught up in the lies of the propaganda mainstream media. And people are fully caught up with just how bad Kamala Harris is. If you want a country that's going to continue to fall apart, they know exactly who to vote for. If you want a country that is going to turn around and approach what we had during President Trump's time in office, only this time with a much stronger mandate, you vote for Donald Trump. And, you know, people understand that the government and our bureaucracy is fundamentally broken. The people who are running our government hate the people of the United States of America. Donald Trump has stood up in the face of overwhelming odds, overwhelming efforts to destroy him, to silence him, and yet he is still continuing to plug along, even when he doesn't need to. I mean, his life would be so much better off if he was just to stop. I mean, the only reason he's doing it is because he means what he says. He truly cares about the country. And for people who care about their family and the most basic things that are required to survive, it's Donald Trump or nothing. I mean, either we vote for Donald Trump, we get rid of this old guard, cast off the ideas of endless foreign wars and caring for people who are not citizens of the United States, quit allowing these people to stream across the border as they destroy our culture and our society and our children and our homes, or you vote for more of it. Kamala Harris is it.
Yeah.
Oh, one more point. People might have thought that we were crazy in 2020 when we said that Donald Trump got the election stolen from him. But if and when it happens again, and we have 150% voter turnout in major Democrat cities and swing states all around the country, every single vote for Kamala Harris, another example of that exact same graph, just 3 a.m. ballot spike, that's going to be a huge red pill for all of those people. We'll already know. We'll be expecting it if we see it happen. But then these people who are new Trump voters who are like, how in the hell did that happen? Oh my God, it's exactly what they said happened in 2020. And then on top of that, you have people in Congress who I truly believe will not certify that vote. Okay, they will say, absolutely not. This is exactly the same thing that happened before. We're simply not going to allow our country to be taken over, and people will be ready to go. I mean, at a minimum, J.D. Vance in the Senate would not vote to certify that. I think Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, there are a ton of people in the House that would also not vote to certify.
I want to go back to something you said there, Frank, too. And I completely agree, Zach. But I want to go back to something you said, Frank, because you mentioned, these people that like you have to be almost retarded to look at Kamala Harris as an acceptable option based on what we've seen. Just a few weeks ago, or maybe less than a week ago, James O'Keefe had a hidden video of an MSNBC producer talking about how they're basically making their viewers dumber. And then you also mentioned how like they can never be wrong about anything. Like everything they say is true, and if you don't believe it, you're crazy. They've mentally handicapped these people into this way of thinking, and they've done it by making it like Donald Trump like this major boogeyman to fear and hate so badly that to a lot of the country, they've completely removed the ability to think with any kind of logic or rationale whatsoever. Everything is just like, is this pro or anti-Trump? And as long as it's framed that way, these people will vote, say, believe absolutely anything. They'll watch that interview last night and they will convince themselves that Brett Baer is a Trump surrogate just there to make her look bad, that the whole thing was an ambush, an attack, and
because
Kamala Harris handled it with
aplomb.
great. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Again, they're not. They've been so mentally and emotionally abused for the past 8 years or longer by these propaganda outlets that they're incapable. Like there's no like they're just so easily triggered. It's very difficult for them to get past that. So I think his name is Mark Halpern was on on with Tucker Carlson. I don't know if you saw the clip where he was talking about how if Donald Trump wins and it looks like he's going to win the popular vote, that's going to cause a major mental health crisis
No,
across.
it's going to expose a major mental health crisis. People I don't know what he said. I think you're on the right track, but if he did say it's going to cause, he should have used the word expose. We are surrounded by absolutely batshit crazy people. And I know that they would say the same thing about us, but it's just not the case. I don't want anything of anybody. They want to impose on everyone for the sake of a worldview that they believe is the most equitable, which is actually a tyrannical hellhole where you can't think a certain way, you can't say anything, you're economically limited based on what the status into which you were born. A lot of it has to do with race and sexuality and all that. It is a hellscape that they represent that needs to be imposed on humanity because it is not a natural state of being. What I want is to literally be left alone. They say, get your hands out of my vagina. Like you're the one asking me to be in your vagina. I don't want to be there. Nobody wants to be in that terrible place.
Yeah.
There is a mental health crisis that is going to be exposed, and we've seen that those eruptions over the course of the last 8 to 10 years. We've seen those eruptions when the hive gets kicked and people are triggered because this is all just like it's all very, very trauma based.
They've convinced a lot of the viewers, these true believers of the mainstream media and the propaganda, that Donald Trump is Hitler, literally like the devil incarnate, and that it's just like these fringe right-wing crazies that really support him. And that's what they believe because they're in that bubble. They refuse to acknowledge any other possibilities. So when more than half the country comes out and votes for him and gives him a mandate, they're going to be shocked. They're that they're in the minority, that they're surrounded by all these evil, crazy, racist Trump people. They're not going to know what hit them, and that's what I think he was talking about. Was it's going to, like you said, expose. He said create, but I think you're right. I think it's more exposing or bringing to the surface the way these people have been conditioned over.
It's either expose what's there or to trigger what is lying dormant.
Exactly.
And even in a dormant state, they are very unstable. Very unstable. I mean, just look at the most professional, astute, professional newsmen and women that can barely keep their lips from trembling and their eyes from watering up. They, even in their most collected state, they are a hair trigger away from total emotional meltdown, and they like to project that onto other people. Wow, MAGA's having a meltdown today. Yuck. It's like it's just that projection needs to be there so they don't feel like so much of a menopausal mess. That's just what this is.
Yeah, that's really well said. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait, honestly. I can't wait for this election, and I really, really do hope that Donald Trump wins the popular vote just to give these people that bucket of cold water over their head, guys. Like,
Yeah.
that they are the minority. Most people do not agree with the institutionalized nonsense that they've become so comfortable believing because they have not gotten that dose of perspective yet. They think that we are the minority and that they are somehow being oppressed by a minority when the opposite is completely true. They are a very loud minority, and I think they're about to find out, like, holy crap.
I hope. I listen, all I can do and all I will continue to do is hope. As I'm sure you guys do too, because this is the worst kind of subject matter to come on out and be boisterous and confident and lay a prediction down. It's even worse than sports betting. Okay. I don't know how people gain so many followers on their podcast doing fantasy sports predictions and telling everybody who to put their money on. But when it comes to politics, that's why the betting markets have been very, very interesting to me. What do they know? And as much as I would love to see definitive wins and definitive messages sent, like Adel just said, I have what can Trump do in 4 years? Hopefully he can cobble together an effective coalition for at least one half of the last term to do some interesting things, to deregulate, to chop down taxes, to do something small. I want to see complete abolitions. I want to see entire agencies boarded up. Whatever the hell he can do, fine. I am always just looking for a monkey wrench in the gears so that locally people can do the real work, which is to start being okay with divorcing themselves from the federal government on all things we used to think was completely necessary, but we can all do it ourselves at home. I just want to see the monkey wrench effect. And I also I would love to see mentally disabled people get triggered into hysterics. It would make me feel good. I hate when mentally disturbed people are confident. I want them to be triggered into hysterics. It would make me feel good. I want to feel good.
I'm so sick of feeling like shit. Just give me something to feel. It's inevitable, Frank. It's going to happen. So I love it too. I have to be perfectly honest with you. There's nothing more satisfying than watching those people completely lose their shit. Like, I think often, President Trump said it the other day, I wonder what happened to that one woman who was like, wonder what happened to her. Where is she today? But we're going to get a lot more moments like that.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, does him winning, like, if he wins, let's say he wins the popular vote by 3 points, that would be like an absolute landslide. Doesn't that in itself like start to deconstruct at least like the propaganda machine a little bit? Like all the bullshit that
It has to.
Oh, they're gonna go headlong into it, guys. I mean, watch them start saying that Donald Trump was responsible for stealing the election. It's gonna happen.
They are. This is never about the institutions changing. Never will. They will always pivot to a place where they can shed any kind of real responsibility and do any kind of reflecting, because this is not about crimes of emotion or crimes of passion and all that. This is a very real sedition operation. This is a very, very real, gigantic psychological operation that they are they're fused at the hip with. So they're not going to, but what this will do is, for example, Brandon Strzok and the walkaway movement. It took Donald Trump winning 2016 for people like Brandon Strzok to analyze themselves in the mirror. Why are they freaking out? And actually to look into what went wrong and where along the way something was lost or was intentionally mischaracterized. I think everything along the way is always going to be for the average person. There's going to be a knock at the door. And when are more people going to answer that door? That's the real thing. I just want people to answer the door when they hear the knock. It's not going to be about whether or not Joy Ann Reid is going to have a come to Jesus moment. They're gone. Those souls are lost. But for people like us, that would be great.
Yeah, I think, like I said, just that douse of cold water. Like, oh man, like we're not the majority. Like most people don't trust the media. Most people disagree with what these people are saying. I think that's really powerful, and I think it's going to really hurt those institutions' ability to be effective the way that they were. I think a lot of the way they're effective is they really convince their viewers that their way of thinking is popular, more common, it is correct, it is right. But I think when most of your peers around you, or you now know most of your peers around you, disagree and aren't believing that, I think you're more likely to be skeptical yourself. I think other than, there's always going to be that there's people that can't get past it. But I do think a lot of people that, kind of watch more casually or aren't as into this stuff are going to be more dismissive of the messaging they hear from the machine if they really realize how slanted and dishonest or detached from reality, detached from public opinion it really was the whole time. When they see the gaslighting in a way that's completely undeniable, which I think would be a massive landslide victory for Donald Trump, especially, like I said, the popular vote. I think that's the key to really kickstarting a lot of what you said, Frank, when it comes to deconstructing the bureaucracy and these corrupt institutions that are, completely taken over our country.
Yeah, I would love to see deconstruction by executive order. No doubt about it. Most of those terrible agencies, they live within the executive branch. They were put there so that, with the Department of Education, all these things can affect every American with a swipe of the president's pen because they belong to his branch. It's the craziest end around to anything constitutional you could imagine, but here we are, and it's normal. So whereas I would like to see that deconstruction happen, the states just need to adopt a mentality of voiding. That's it. Null and void. It's void, and we are not that we're nullifying it, and that's it. We need nullification to become mainstream again, because who knows what Donald Trump has the balls and the time to do in 4 years if he gets it. God hope that he does. But the states need to adopt the mindset of nullification again and really take it seriously.
Yeah. Zach, I know your show's coming up here, man. Any final thoughts on any of this before you get going?
Ultimately, I'm going into this with cautious optimism. I feel pretty good about the way things are going to shake out. I am confident that they're going to try to steal this, but I'm also confident that enough people have woken up that it's not going to work. So I look forward to all of these people being justly punished for all of their actions. And if that means they line up against the wall and they're going to look for people to volunteer for the firing squads, I don't think that they're going to have any shortage of Americans that are willing to step up and fulfill that duty for their country, for God, for America.
If they needed somebody to just, if let's say like some of the lesser offenders are just sentenced to be paddled, I would like to be a paddler. I'll paddle somebody's ass until they are raw. You just let me know, and I will paddle 10,000 people a day. I will swing for the fences.
All right, you guys. Thank you for having me. I'm going live. We'll see you soon.
All right, later.
That's what I want in 2025. Mass paddling. I will personally paddle 10,000 people.
I'm for it, man. Let me ask you one more thing, Frank, before we wrap up. Because I know you have guests on your show from time to time that are into alternative health and things like that. And having RFK Jr. on the ticket and the Make America Healthy Again, I saw an ad he did about like getting rid of these GMO farmers and doing restorative farming on the land, bringing back the soil, and like all these major issues that have been largely ignored by any side of the aisle. Does that give you any additional excitement over the potential of a Donald Trump 2.0? Like some of these real root causes to the degradation of our society might actually be addressed when it comes to our health, our mental health, our food supply, our medicine, like actually having someone outside of that machine overseeing that for a change.
Yeah, because I think he's serious. I think it's not lip service when it comes to this particular thing. And that's why I wish that both JD Vance and Donald Trump, like I said before, weeks ago when Trump was, doing that broadcast with Kamala Harris, I won't call it a debate. I understand that it was just the optics of that came to Trump's aid. Everybody knew what kind of a setup job it was, but the people who prepared him for that debate should be fired and never hired again. if he did any preparation at all. I mean, she's been campaigning now, making jokes about him, Donald Trump, saying that he had concepts of a plan for healthcare if we were to repeal Obamacare, which is like, should we repeal? Yes, yes. One line, it is there. It is repealed as of now, gone.
Yeah.
That's what we need. That's what we need. But as far as replacing it, well, I believe that there is a lot of great, market introducing competition brings down prices. But the biggest thing here, aside from free market principles that everybody needs to learn again, that it has to be put into the insurance marketplace again, because centralization is only exploding the cost. The other thing that they both had, Trump and JD Vance, that a huge thing that they never tapped into was Robert Kennedy Jr.'s his proposals. I mean, he put out a dozen points on the Wall Street Journal, I think 2 or 3 days before that Kamala Harris debate that she had with Donald Trump on ABC. About 2 or 3 days before that broadcast on the Wall Street Journal, RFK Jr.'s "Make America Healthy Again" points were published very, very clearly. I mean, that is a huge part of a healthcare plan to start taking better care of the food that we're eating, the way that it's prepared and preserved, the way that people take care of themselves prior to needing to go to see a doctor. I mean, that's the real healthcare crisis in this country. Even people who don't, I mean, everybody's eating seed oils. Everybody. I mean, there's so much. What did they say? Like over 80% of children have glyphosate in their bodies. I mean, this is shit that ruins, sewer systems. It makes no sense to me that JD Vance and Trump did not get all over flaunting their latest addition to their platform, which is so concise and so specific with RFK. So yeah, if he does get in and get a second crack at this, I am really excited to see what Kennedy really puts into gear there, because if he has any kind of autonomy in putting things into place and regulations and all that stuff, I would love to see it, because as bad as Europe is politically, they do so many great things with the banning of GMO foods and certain types of seed oil. I mean, what they do health-wise, you'd think that they'd be worse than us, but they've actually got it right with a lot of things out there in Europe. Russia too. I would love to see just our approach to the way that we farm start changing a little bit, and you're going to see a lot more people need doctors less.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. Like you said, it's clear and concise, and it's not a left or right issue either. I think there's just as many people like Trump, hate Trump, that agree with the state of our agriculture, our food, our medicine, and do not like the way the FDA and the CDC handle that whole relationship. I think that's one of those issues that really kind of crosses party lines, and to see Donald Trump and RFK Jr. kind of come together and make that a big part of their platform is really, really exciting. That's like paradigm shifting stuff. You talk about the national deficit and all these different things. I mean, how much money do we spend as a society on sick people that don't work, that go on disability, start taking Social Security?
Yeah.
Way too early, like, you know what I mean? Like it drives up the cost of everything else for everybody else. It's one of those hidden things that if you address it, it's just one of those the dominoes start to fall, and more things get better and better just based off the way we feed and treat ourselves and our state of our health. Frank, thank you, man, as always, for the time. What do you got going on tonight?
Well, I would like to invite everybody that's watching right now to join me at 7:00. Quite Frankly is on Rumble, so if you're there, we're also on Pilled. If you're watching on Pilled, Pilled is cozily embedded in the center of QuiteFrankly.tv, my channel, so you can go right to QuiteFrankly.tv, YouTube, wherever the hell it is. 7:00. I want to get into the lip reading. Want to do a little bit of Joe Biden and Obama lip reading, and then I want to ask the question. I want to bring some data in, present some stuff to the audience, and then ask the questions and take your calls on what do the gamblers know. Whereas so many of the polls in this country are tight, whether they favor Trump or favor Harris, whatever like that. The gamblers have very, very lopsided opinions on what is about to happen. And I tend to think that they are fringe thinkers just like us. So I want to open up the lines and just get opinions from people. So I hope that many of you are there. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Frank. Thanks a lot, man. Have a great show tonight.
Take care and go Yankees.
Go Yankees. My Pirates aren't there, so might as well go Yankees, right? It's tough to say that about a big market baseball team, but for Frank, we'll pull for the Yankees tonight. All right. I got some sponsors to take care of here, and I apologize for waiting till the end. We're just having a really great conversation. I did not want to break up the flow. So we're gonna run through a few sponsors, and then I'll do all the sign off and housekeeping stuff there. I am planning on doing some overtime today too. So if you want to keep hanging out and with me, I'm gonna go exclusively live. Well, I'll stay live exclusively over on pilled.net for a little while here after we officially end taking it back. But first, we got a couple sponsors. We got My Pillow and Pet Club. So I'm gonna play these. And then a special message from our friends at Rise Attire too, which you don't want to miss. Rise Attire, USA.com. Amazing company, evil-free apparel. They support so many people in this movement, so many content creators, giving us the ability to design our gear, our merch, and have it made without exploitation or supporting evil. You look at the clothing industry, and there's just so much nonsense in there, and they've really worked hard to create their logistics and their manufacturing in a way that is very America First friendly, that you can feel good about spending your money with them, which I think is just, again, really, really cool. Putting your money where your mouth is, walking the walk, not just talking the talk. And very, very few companies out there do it as well as Rise Attire. So I want to play a little video from them too. So don't go anywhere, guys. Get a couple of sponsors in this Rise Attire video, and then we're gonna go exclusively over to pill.net on 412 Productions for a little overtime. Got some stuff I want to get into. So we'll be right back.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra My Pillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic My Pillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen size My Pillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use My Pillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size My Pillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
It's widely known that the body's own immune system is a God-given first responder to help us deal with the smallest of concerns to the most catastrophic. Our friends at Pet Club 24/7 have developed natural products that contain the most potent strain of mushroom that's been used for thousands of years to support the immune system. So visit the website today to discover how they're changing the way that pets and people are being treated for the better.
All right, so big thank you to the sponsors of the show. Guys, please support the sponsors and hit that thumbs up button if you're watching on Badlands Media over on Rumble. That really helps the show as well. And if you're on pill.net, please repost, share the link, hit that red pill button too. All right, here's a message from our very good friends over at Rise Attire, USA.com. Again, I can't say enough good things about Rise Attire. So always excited to bring you guys the latest.
Hey there, Badlanders. Do you love Badlands as much as you hate communism? Do you want patriotic apparel that's not made in China, but also won't make you look like a dork? Well, then we've got just the thing for you. Introducing an entirely new line of official Badlands gear made in partnership with the Culture Warriors at Rise Attire and Rise INTL. With 4 brand new collections of original artwork across a wide range of products to choose from. Spread the signal with deep-cut symbols from Devolution lore to the ghosts in the machine on the front lines of the Psy War. Wrap yourself in America the Beautiful with the warm tones and textures of Badlands National Park. To the eye of the storm in Mount Rushmore. This is premium quality streetwear, custom made to order from scratch just for you by the Patriots at our East Peoria, Illinois facility. Don't wait. Explore the entire store and order your new gear today at badlandsmedia.tv/rise. Represent Badlands boldly and proudly. This culture war ain't gonna win itself.
Awesome stuff there. Awesome stuff there. And again, we have a promo code for the channel, WTP Rise at checkout. Will get you 10% off the entire store, anything you want there. It's also the exclusive place to get 412 Productions gear. We've got some really cool stuff there: golf polos, hats, beach towels, tank tops, t-shirts, hoodies. Just an awesome selection of stuff there if you're a fan of our operation over on 412 Productions and so many others of our friends within the movement here have teamed up with Rise Attire one way or another to get merch on there. And again, they do it the right way, evil free. It's a lot of fun. Plus, the lovely Maxinon of Rise Attire is going to be on the panel tomorrow. So those of you guys watching on Badlands Media, you don't want to miss it. Tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be live. The show's called Deplorable Discussions. The channel is 412 Productions on Pill.net, Rumble, DLive, Cloud Hub, Odyssey. If you want to follow me on Twitter, and I hope you will, at 412anon87, on Truth Social at 412. But yeah, that's gonna do it for Taking It Back. And again, I'm gonna stay live exclusively on Pilled.net for a little while longer. I'll put the link to the channel in the chats for you guys if you want to keep hanging out with me. Although I know there's a lot of other awesome content going. I know Zach's live right now with his show, and you know, if you look anywhere around the interwebs, I'm sure there's a lot of great options out there. But I am going to hang out for a bit. I've got a few things I've been wanting to play and do that we haven't gotten around to yet this week, and I feel like overtime is a good time to get into some of that stuff. So without further ado, let's say goodbye and end Taking It Back. For Frankie Val of QuiteFrankly.tv. Again, he goes live 7 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. Go check out QuiteFrankly.tv. And of course, Zach Payne, Red Pill 78, RedPill78news.com for all things Zach. But I know you guys over on Badlands are very, very familiar with all of Zach's great work. But he goes live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 5 p.m. over on his channel and does a fantastic job. My name is Adel Nero, and again, my channel is 412 Productions, and Taking It Back, 412 Productions. So thank you guys so much for hanging out, and I hope some of you guys will come hang out with me over on Pilled for a little while longer. We'll be back in just a minute.